Let's get started.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome to this episode of Walnut Women. I have a guest with me, Shirley, and Shirley's family has been part of FCBC for 8 years now. And Shirley and her husband also teach the Sunday school classes for kids at our church for the past 6 years. And she was formerly an Awana counselor for our children's program on Friday evenings. So today, Shirley, I just wanted to talk about something really special that you do. You teach Sunday school at our church, and you also teach art classes. And I guess I want to start off by asking you, how did you start teaching art classes? You're now currently one of our consistent art teachers, and this past Easter we had art classes for our elementary age kids. And so, when did this all start for you?
So I've always been pretty creative, just making things just whenever I can, pretty much. So when I was younger, I had pretty good art teachers growing up. So I think that kind of fostered a lot of the things that I do because the teacher that I had, she kind of basically used a lot of different materials. And a lot of times it was looking at things in different perspective and materials in different perspectives. So it was a lot of hands-on things that you didn't think that you would use to create things. So, and that's probably because I grew up in Panama where there are lack of materials that a lot of times that you can just go to Michael's and Joann's or Hobby Lobby that you can get. So there are times that you should end up finding things kind of randomly to create different things. And my mom was also very creative as a person. Even now, she is. So same thing with her. It's just, finding resources that, things that you wouldn't think that you would use to create things. And she owned a business. So when I was growing up, my mom had a business where they sold clothing, hair accessories, things like that. So she would find things and she would say, "Oh, I need to sell this." So she'll make it out of
Mm-hmm.
scratch, finding materials from random places.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my mom. So between the art teacher and my mom, it's just like being in that environment growing up kind of made me, have that confidence that, hey, you know what, I really like doing this. So I didn't go uh, into art as a degree at all. My degree was in business because, all Asian families know that you don't go into
Yep.
maybe a doctor, a lawyer, or a business person, right? So
Right.
yeah. So the closest that I in degree wise I had was marketing. So that's the most creative part, in business that you can really get.
Right, right.
Otherwise, yeah. So, and then after I was working in social services for multiple years, and then I got married and I had kids, and we made the decision to stay home. So during the time that I had my kids, I started making bows. I don't think you know that, but I had a bow business, like
Oh,
making
that's awesome.
yeah. So I knew how to crochet also back
Uh-huh.
then had to do with my art teacher. So I made a lot of crochet little flowers, items that were bowls, and I used same thing, different materials. I had things that had to do with felt. Not
Mm-hmm.
only ribbon bows, but just tons of different things that I would make just using different materials. So for a few years I was doing that. So I was in craft fairs and selling little.
Using your marketing degree.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did that
Nice.
for a while. So that was the creative part that was as soon as I had Sabrina. So I
Okay.
did that for quite some time. And then later on I had a kind of like a mom blog for a while. And yeah, so then I did that for a few years. And then in 2017, um, I went to the women's retreat.
Hmm.
A speaker, her name was Lisa Najo. I don't know if you remember. I know it's been a few years. So, and she talked about using our God-given talent. to glorify him, you know?
Mhm.
And a lot of times I go like, well, I love to create, but what do you mean? Like by using
Yeah.
my talent to glorify him, right? So I had a talk with her, but other than that, it just opened a lot of conversation and a lot of prayer in regards to I
Mhm.
know what I'm made of and what really sings to me. And I know that God created me to create.
Mhm.
But now, like, how do I use those gifts to glorify Him? You know,
Mm.
so those are the things that kind of open a lot of doors for me to find ways to share that opportunity with others. Because I think I always wanted to teach my own kids. Not all of them are interested into creating, but at least the ones that are, that you can find materials and things and create things out of nothing. You know, it
Yes. Yes.
doesn't yeah so so basically that was always my concept when in regards to the art classes. So
Mm.
what one of the things that she mentioned, I said, well, how do I know, what do I do to really use my talent? And the one thing she mentioned that really stuck with me was just
Mm.
take that one step. You
Mm.
take that one step and the Lord will show you. That's was just like really. it,
Yeah.
it was that moment when I realized that it is really not under my control. It is whether the Lord really want to use me for what He had created me for. But so throughout that journey was mainly creating a program where we would talk about a lot of different cultures and different
Mm.
materials. I love like folk art. I love pop art, things that not just the very traditional stuff. So I also
Mhm.
tell my kids everywhere that you go, there's especially folk art, there's a lot of different cultures where they create things that a lot of people think, oh, it's just from the Indians or from the this, but no, not necessarily. They use their love and they use their talent to create all these amazing things that you don't you don't think that it's art that might be put in a museum, but
Mhm.
they are. And it's just those things usually sings to my soul.
Mm.
I feel deeply connected to
Mm.
a lot of those pieces, let's say that way. So then I would incorporate like doing the summer art classes that I used to have in Walnut. The studio is no longer there because after the pandemic, where the person that I was working with, she closed it down. But I
Mhm.
would have like summer art classes, well, 1 week about Latin American art, 1 week about Greek art, 1 week about African art. So just different cultures. So it was more of that. And then we would incorporate like pieces that was soft pastel, oil pastel, acrylics, watercolors, just different things. So that same idea, same concept, where that's how I learn, where you use different materials to create different things. Because once you learn that skill, you could add it on to things that comes along your way.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it
That,
all started.
that's a huge story. I like that there was a turning point you mentioned at the retreat where you started praying about the question, like, how can this ability um, give God glory and how can it practically be used for his glory? And I think that's a question that a lot of artists can ask themselves because there just seems to be very clear platforms for some people, certain types of artists. And what about the people who make stuff, like who like creating things? Like, where does that go? And you also said that what stood out to you was just the idea that you just have to take one step at a time. And now here we are, like fast forward many, many years after that retreat, and you are now teaching art classes at our church. Um, what do you think about how God has allowed you to be serving as, an art teacher, teaching art to our kids at church?
It's very different when it comes to the because usually at our church, when we do it by the holidays,
Yeah.
basically I'll be incorporating anything that has to do with the particular, like Thanksgiving
Right. Right.
or those main holidays that are important to us. So it's a little bit different because this whole main purpose is to bring kids to get to know Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll always incorporate a smaller lesson about Jesus, so
Right.
the Christ connection overall when it comes to the art classes in our school. And the kids that have come often or repeatedly are welcome to invite their friends. And a lot of them are probably from school or non-Christian friends, things like and then we open the door to, hey, you want to come to VBS? Hey, you want to come to, Awana, things like that. So, that's the main purpose of the art classes at our church. I kind of wish hopefully in the future we can do a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So
And so you would say that there is a purpose behind these classes, that it is also like an outreach opportunity to kids, which we have received kids who are unchurched at these classes, right?
yeah, we have.
Let's talk about how you see God being glorified through artists who can create something.
Okay. So I don't know. I mean, there are verses in the Bible that constantly mention about how, when they were creating the tabernacle and how God,
Mm-hmm.
picked Bezalel, and I think the other one was a holy, and
Mm-hmm.
they were picked because they were artisan and they were
Mm-hmm.
good and with their hands and they can create silver and bronze, and it's constantly there are verses in the Bible that mentions about how God has had picked people to create different things for his glory. So
Mm-hmm.
now we have a very creative God, and we all know
Amen. Yep.
we have a God that created all of us, everything from nothing,
Yeah.
okay, the design of our body, the designs of our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that all the little pieces that we have, all the talents that each and every one of us have, it's like a big puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Add all of us together, that is who God is. So
Yeah.
that's the beauty of all that. Like I might be creative with my hands for certain things, but you
Mm-hmm.
can be creative with other things, So
Mm-hmm.
we all are made to be creative.
Yes.
So I know a lot of times people are scared to start something, and I do too. To be honest, I have struggled many times whether I want to start something or not because of the fear of failure. And I think that always carries with all of us. What if there's like that? What if this happened? What if that happens? Right. But and then we kind of self-talked ourselves out of it because we believe that we're not good enough. But now the
Mm-hmm.
question is,
Mm-hmm.
are we really created not good enough, or are we good enough just the way we are?
Mm-hmm.
So I struggle with those questions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Is this what he really wants me to do?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at certain things.
Yeah.
So what about the rest of the things that I believe that I'm not good at? So that's where prayer comes in, and in hopes that the Lord will show, that open the door, or the person that will end up talking to you and or talk you into it or out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's basically what it is.
Yeah. I think that there is a mindset. It's like it's I don't know what it's an artist's mindset where you want to make something, and sometimes it gets cloudy when you allow other people's opinions to affect the way you view your own work. Especially nowadays with social media, and people like to publish the things that they make, or start selling their products, and then they start comparing like the success of it based on whatever numbers or sales. But like, for God to receive the glory, it's if you did it with your heart and it was for his purposes,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes. Yeah,
And
you're
that should
absolutely
be good
right.
enough for you, right?
Yes, yes. So I mean, obviously, if you're actually going to use it in the means of making a living, but it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work. It's just
Mm-hmm.
how much you trust the Lord's process. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of times is whether we want to take that step or not, just
Right.
overall.
Right.
So I mean, I always work with kids, and I think that was a very natural process for me to
Mm.
move into teaching art, because that just feels right for me, and that's what I wanted my kids to know. So
Mm.
I think overall that's how it works. Am I currently teaching anything other than our church? No, to be honest, I am not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, I started working at my kids' school, and that kind of took away more time out of
Yeah.
me. And it's basically whether, is this the right time or not to do certain
Yeah.
things. Yeah, that's another whole process of
Yeah.
prayer, and where does the Lord meet me now,
Well, it really has been a blessing to see you step in for the past few years, ever since pandemic. I think my kids were in that first Zoom class of yours when we did it at our church. And it is a real blessing to the parents who get to send their kids to something like this. And I really appreciate that you're sharing your time, your talents, and your resources with us. And I guess my next question for you is, do you have like a favorite material or a type of project that you really like to create and produce?
I haven't worked too much on things, but um if it's anything, would be mixed media
Hmm.
that has to do with paper, um more paper collages. So you've probably seen partial of it on some of the things that I've been made with the kids. So
Yeah.
if you notice, there's a lot of more mixed media and paper collages kind of over,
Uh-huh.
and that's because I kind of like those more than anything. And like pop art is another one that's quite a, more of what I don't know, what I'm more comfortable with, I gotta say.
Pop art? Can you explain that? What's that?
So it's more like contemporary and colorful.
Okay.
Yeah, that type. Yeah. So
Okay, so let's see. The next question is, where do you get your inspiration for the pieces that you end up teaching to the art classes?
um it's what I have on hand.
Oh, so it's the materials itself.
Yeah. So there's always a budget, and then it's what I have on hand. Does that make sense?
That's great. Like you're
Yeah.
flexible and you
Yeah.
can just
So
look at what you have and like
let's just figure
come
it
up with
out.
a vision, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't
So
have a sample and then that's great. So
what do we have this on hand? What do you think if we, use this for that? And then like here are some, amount of leftover paint. Can we use that?
yeah.
And then we have these, plates and cups that were handed over to me
The
from
freebie sites, right? Whatever gets donated.
yeah. So do you need this, Shirley? Well, let me think about it. Maybe we can use it for something else in the future.
No, that's awesome. It means that you're really resourceful.
So I think it comes from more that, it's like what we have on hand, can we use it and just buy the minimum,
Yeah. Yeah.
cover whatever cost. So so that's mainly where it comes from. But we always try to find projects where I'm hoping that it will tie to Easter, it will tie to Christmas, it will tie
No,
to
that's awesome.
so
Yeah, that's awesome.
to that. So
All right, so we'll close with this last question. How would you compare your experience teaching art with your experience teaching the Bible as a Sunday school teacher?
we have a format in our classroom because Uncle Henry has taught so many years. So I
Well,
know follow, huh?
You call your own
Oh,
husband
my husband, Uncle Henry. Yes.
Henry.
Yeah. So yeah, my husband. So he has a format that we already have, like, kind of, it works for our age group, it works for our class. So we basically just, follow a certain format that we used every week.
Mhm.
Kids, at least between me and my husband, we do that. So I know we have lesson plans every week that is different, and all the teachers teaches slightly differently depending on who's
Mhm.
teaching the class. But overall, we use pretty much the same format. We'll have, you know, beginning prayer, and then we'll have like prayer request, and then we'll share like, someone that is um, in ministry somewhere, um, and then we'll go into the lessons, we'll show a video, so it's just the general pretty much
Mhm.
format that we actually do. But versus the art classes, it's more like, okay, what should we come up with?
Okay.
Yeah, that would tie it into, our salvation, basically, the story of salvation. Most of the time, that's what we bring it back to. So that's slightly different. I mean, like, but overall, I love working with kids,
Mhm.
and they are fun to be with, and sometimes they're naughty, but overall, at our church, they're pretty good.
All
So
right. Well, that completes our time together, and thank you for sharing all that you've experienced and how God has worked through your prayers of wanting to create things and integrating that with the ministry with kids. And all of this is just really beautiful to hear how God can use your skills for His glory.
so one last thing. I think that's pretty much for everybody.
Mhm.
So God has created us with just different gifts. Everyone has something that God,
Yeah.
a talent, a gift that the Lord has given you. I think most of us should try to see what exactly that gift and that talent is, and see if you can use it to glorify Him. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of, oh, either just because I need to serve, I'll be serving, right? But a lot of people don't think that using your talent is actually glorifying now, right here
Mhm.
in His kingdom. So it's not like, okay, I'm glorifying God in heaven. No, what is it glorifying God? It is doing it right now at this moment in time, and using what He has given you. It's basically like the materials that He has given me. What am I going to use it for? How am I going
Mhm.
to create with what I have on hand? So it's the
Yeah.
same mentality. So what is it that God has given you that sings to you? Not, it could be anything. It could just be hospitality. It could be just you, because you care so much about others, or
Yeah.
whatever talent that God has given you. You can definitely use it to glorify Him, like right now, and at this moment in time. So it doesn't have to be, oh, because I need to serve a church, I'll just do it
Yeah.
necessarily. So,
Yes.
and don't wait till you go to heaven.
Yes. Thank you for that exhortation, Shirley. That was great. Thank you for giving that exhortation. Okay.
So, okay.
All right. We'll end our time here. Thanks again.
Thank you.